Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Bliss Rewind podcast. Phil hasn't shown up yet for some reason, so it's hopefully he'll hop on here soon, but we're going to start anyway because we have a very special guest with us today, and it is Darrell Spice Jr. But first, let me bring on our usual BD Retro Mods. How's it going, Brian?
Good. How are you doing?
And of course, our special guest, Darrell.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Doing all right. How y'all doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
This is really cool because you are the programmer. Like I said in our little brief green screen time, you are one of my favorite homebrew programmers for the 2600. I'd say you and John Champeau are like right up there with a couple of my favorite homebrews. I think maybe the first question wanted to ask is just why the Atari 2600? What made you want to program games for the 2600?
We had one when growing up. We got it the year as a family Christmas present when Space Invaders was released.
Okay.
And so I was really had a lot of fun with it, and back in the day, I thought it'd be cool to make games for it and stuff. And then I ended up getting into computers with a Commodore PET at school, and then a VIC-20, and that kind of filled that urge, because I could write games on it. And in the 90s, I became involved with the Stella project, the Atari emulator.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did the OS2 port of Stella. And
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did quite a few ports. I had Colem for the Coleco, Master Gear for the Sega Master System Game Gear, and a Virtual Boy, I think it was a Game Boy one.
Okay.
So I did a number of emulators for it, and the Atari one with Stella was the first I did, and I hadn't played Atari since the early 80s. Because once I got into computers, the console was for the young kids.
Yeah.
And so I reacquired an Atari at that point so that I could get the timing right and stuff. And so that's when I became aware of the homebrews, because we included a few homebrews with the Stella distribution back then. And so that was, it was kind of like interesting. And from the Commodore, from the VIC, I had already learned 6502 machine language.
Okay.
And so that worked very well for the Atari. And I just had to figure out how TIA worked, the video chip. And it is such a bizarre chip. It is unlike anything else. And so it's the mental challenge of getting it to do anything. Even a static display is mind-boggling on this chip.
Really, because I am by no means a programmer, but I've heard that you have to basically you even have to program the refresh rate, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. With all other systems, you have video memory. You put data in the video memory, and the video chip will read that and draw the screen. With the Atari, back when they developed it, memory was so expensive that it only came with 128 bytes, which is not enough to hold the screen. So the video chip only has enough registers to store data to hold a single scan line of the picture. And so
you're literally drawing line by line.
Line by line, you're updating the video chip in real time to draw what you want on the screen. And including in that is you have to tell it when to do the sync signal, which makes the beam go back to the top of the TV to draw the next picture. or the next frame. And if you don't do it at the right time, your screen will either bounce up and down or roll. So it's very obvious if you did something incorrect with that. And
Sounds like math. I don't like math.
and the timing constraints, because there's only 76 cycles of processing time per scan line, and trying to update all of this information is, it's a juggle. If you update it too late, it won't show up on this scan line. It'll show up on the next scan line and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called shearing, when an object shows up on the wrong scan line.
Okay. and sorry, going back, what made you think, hey, this would be the system that I want to program for?
I was going to say, as you're talking about how hard that is to do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's the mental challenge of doing it.
Okay.
And it's like a big puzzle. How do you get all the pieces to fit together to get it to do something?
That's fair.
Yeah,
and then
you said,
ahead,
I mean, oh no, that's okay. It's just, and like you said though, I mean, that's one of the cool things, just seeing programmers such as yourself and some others in the homebrew community, just literally taking the power of that to the fullest, like knowing the challenges and being able to still come up with the quality stuff that you guys do is impressive there. And like you said, a lot of that is too because of having more memory now for cards. Obviously they couldn't have back then.
Right.
But again, just learning those, like pretty much how to get by on what you got there is, like I said, it's impressive.
Yeah.
And then
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, hey, look who just
joined
us. Hey, Phil.
Guys, I'm really sorry about that. I'll explain later. But how's it going, everybody?
That's going all
We're
right.
doing all right.
I'm sorry about that, Darrell. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing okay.
Good. I don't know what you guys have been talking about for the last 7.5 minutes, but
well,
I'm gonna listen in and see.
Yeah, we just started with kind of why Atari and some of the challenges programming it. I think we were just going to move into I was about to ask, about that first homebrew game that you made. Tell us about your first homebrew game.
Okay, the first one was Medieval Mayhem, which is an updated version of Warlords. And
love it.
And you have the
one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Thank you.
This is special to me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I was up visiting my brother for Christmas. He's up in Wisconsin. And when I had gotten back into the Atari and doing the Stella port for OS2, my brother and sister were all really interested in it. So I set them up with an Atari system as well. And when I'd gotten all the cartridges for my own testing and stuff, I did lots of them off of eBay. So I divvied them all up. And so when I was up there, I had my nephews and some of their friends and was looking for something to do with them. So we drug out Warlords on the Atari.
Okay.
And
great game, even the stock Warlords.
Yeah.
I loved that game as a kid. 4 players, great action.
Yeah, it was one of our favorites growing up too. Whenever you had sleepovers at our friends, it was bring your paddles so that we could do 4-player Warlords, because not everybody would have a second set of paddles.
Right.
And so I was, we set it up, and my nephews had played it before, so they already knew what to expect. Their friends just were so dismissive of it because they were used to the PlayStation 3 and stuff. But within a few minutes of them playing the game, they didn't care about the graphics anymore because the game was fun.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And my youngest nephew at the time, whenever he would capture the ball, he wouldn't let it go because everybody was going to kill him. And so I was like, the arcade has multiple fireballs going, and I know people are writing homebrew games for the Atari. Why don't I see what I can do? And originally I was going to just hack Warlords. So I had started doing a disassembly of it to figure out how it worked. And then I decided, just to do a full-blown homebrew instead. And some of the stuff that really helps with mine is, Warlords was a 4K game, and Medieval Mayhem uses 32K.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more room to store all the graphics for the dragon. I believe there's 32 frames of animation. You don't see all of the animation in the game. There's an Easter egg where the dragon is dancing, and that's where some of the extra animation is.
Easter egg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of the Easter egg.
I wasn't either.
But I can. Let's just see if I can. There you go. So it's a little dark, but you can see you got the dragon there in the middle, and just graphically so much better.
I like the cutscenes in between too.
Oh yeah. The and a lot of that came about because of people in the community. Like David Vasquez, who did all the graphics, he came up with that Marching Knight. And
okay.
And it was so awesome. I had to do what I could do to squeeze it in because, towards the end of the project, you're running out of memory and stuff in the cartridge, and it was quite challenging to get it in, but it was well worth it. But the Easter eggs, there's 2 different Easter eggs, if I remember correctly. You trigger them by doing both paddle buttons at the menu. And it's either the left set of paddles will do one Easter egg, the right set of paddles will do the other Easter egg. And the one with the dancing dragon is the credit screen. It has all the credits scrolling up with the dragon dancing at the top.
Nice.
And the other Easter egg is called No Man's Land, and there's no walls. So it's just your shield and the king in the corner.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So very short games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a question I actually don't know the answer to. Does Medieval Mayhem play on the 2600 Plus? Do you know?
I think it should. There's nothing special about it. It's standard bank switching. So I think it should. That's the new one that you can just plug the cartridges in.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, Darrell. I don't mean to interrupt you. I do know that sometimes, I don't know what the new update, or the newest update, I should say, but it sometimes struggles with games with menus.
Huh. Okay.
So at least that's been my experience.
It depends on how it feeds at the menu because it's a ROM dumper.
Right.
There are, especially if it's like multi-carts will have a menu that then opens another ROM. And what the 2600 Plus does is it grabs the ROM that has the menu, but not all the ROMs that it would point to.
Okay. Yeah, I think it should be okay with Medieval Mayhem. I know like the Retron 77 can do it because I have one of those.
Okay, then it should. Yeah. They're very comparable. Yeah.
So it should. And the menu in the game was one of the more challenging aspects of how do you do a menu using a paddle? How to figure that out, and that's, if I remember right, that used up maybe like 6. I don't remember. It uses a lot of the game for the menu because all the graphics and stuff. Yeah.
Use each paddle like an Etch-a-Sketch where you're moving a cursor around the screen.
Right. Yeah, that'd be cool.
But again, with that, like what Phil kind of alluded to, though, is just make sure you have the latest version of the firmware on your 2600 Plus, though, because that's where you're going to have the highest success with a lot of the homebrews.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if any of my other homebrews would work because they use the ARM chip in the cartridge.
Yeah. 2600 Plus struggles with the ARM chip.
Yeah. I think they figured out a way to do the DPC Plus games, which would be Space Rocks and Stay Frosty 2.
Okay.
But I don't think it could do Draconian because that's using the CDFJ drivers.
It's my other favorite.
Oh.
It ranks up there as all-time favorites for me, man.
Yeah. It's right up there. But we'll get to that in due time because we're going to go through the history of Spiceware.
Okay. Yeah.
So after Medieval Mayhem, or unless you have any other, I'm going to have to try out those Easter eggs now. I never even thought to do the
Yeah,
two buttons on the panels.
and I have Easter eggs in some of the other ones too. Like Space Rocks has Easter eggs.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah, and that one has 3. I believe Space Rocks was the next one that was released, but Stay Frosty 2 was actually started first.
Okay.
Back when I first got the Harmony cart, it supported the DPC coprocessor that David Crane created that was used to make Pitfall 2.
Okay.
And so I started doing some experiments with the DPC format, trying to see how that worked. And one of the biggest things it does is speeds up a lot of time critical routines, such as to draw a single sprite on the screen will take about 18 cycles of time per scan line, and you only have 76 cycles. So 18 is quite a bit, especially if you're going to have 2 sprites going. And then you also have your missiles and your background, the playfield and stuff to update. And with DPC, it got that 18 cycles down to 7. So it frees up a lot of time.
That's a huge improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a major improvement. And so I was experimenting with that to see how it worked. And then I approached Fred Quimby, who designed the Harmony, to see, hey, there's a lot of unused resources in here. Instead of just doing 8K of game and 2K of data, can we expand it to use up the full 32 that's in there? And so that's what we ended up doing, and then some. Like some of the stuff that changed was originally the 2K of graphics data was stored in ROM. So whatever the graphics were, that's what they were. And that's how Pitfall 2 works. The way it works with DPC Plus is the graphics are in RAM. So you can actually manipulate them on the fly, which lets you do some fancy stuff. And the other thing we did was that 7 cycles, we were able to get that down to 5. So every update of TIA takes 5 cycles instead of 7. So that helps a lot, which is why the DPC Plus games can do more than a DPC game.
Yeah. Five instead of 7, which is already such a huge improvement over 18.
Right. And Stay Frosty 2 was basically our design bed for getting DPC Plus working, where we would do stuff with Stay Frosty 2, figure out, that's not working, we need to change something, and then revise DPC Plus and back and forth. And one of the other things that we ended up doing with DPC Plus as a later addition was during the, when you're drawing the visible part of the screen, the ARM is busy emulating the DPC Plus chip, which it doesn't really exist, but it has to be monitoring and supplying data in real time. But during the overscan and vertical blank time, which is when all of your game logic runs, the ARM's not doing anything. So one of the last minute things that we added to DPC Plus was the ability to have the ARM run custom code. And it, since it's a 32-bit processor, it can do a lot more, and it's also 70 megahertz versus 1. It can do a lot more calculations in that same amount of time than the Atari can by itself. And so
so you're actually using the ARM to supplement the console itself.
Right. And that was a last minute addition. So it's kind of kludgy how we implemented it, but it worked for what we were doing with Stay Frosty 2. And we, did all sorts of fun stuff with that, like the music in Pitfall, it's all square waves, because that's how DPC worked. For DPC Plus, because we controlled everything, we actually made it where each waveform could be 32 bytes long, defining what the waveform was. So you could do square waves, triangle waves, whatever. And so that's how the music in Stay Frosty 2 sounds so much better than Pitfall. because we could, even though the routines are the same, we're not limited to square waves anymore.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm now I'm finally understanding why things like the Retron 77 and the 2600 Plus are struggling with the ARM things, because it's an actual chip doing part of the role of the console. It's not just ROM.
Pretty much like what Nintendo did on a lot of their later releases. Adding additional chips that do a lot of the legwork. Yeah,
or even like the Super FX chip and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, and it's actually kind of disappointing that back in the day that the market collapsed before they could do anything else with that original DPC, because there are routines in there that Pitfall 2 does not use. So there was things that supported drawing of lines and stuff on the screen, and some other stuff that would be flipping data around and stuff like that. That we're not exactly sure what they were meant for because they were never used. So it would have been interesting to see what they would have pulled off with other games.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big reason why. I mean, now with the Atari 2600, maybe not quite as much, but certainly with other consoles and just advances that they've discovered and different ways of using things. There's a reason I think most homebrew libraries mop the floor with most original libraries.
Yeah,
and it's because of things like this.
Yeah, because we're able to do things that they couldn't back in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't affordable to do the stuff that we're doing. DPC was state of the art for the time. So we, while we're working on the Stay Frosty 2, we were doing it for, planned it for a Christmas release. There was a shortage of I think it was the ARM processors that they were having a shortage of or something. And so we ended up delaying it until the following year. So I ended up working on Space Rocks, and Space Rocks was one where I was really working on an updated version of Berserk first, which is still in progress. It's called Frantic. Initially, I was working on that, and then I got to thinking, wow, we're getting so many objects to show on screen. How many can I really show with, because of the flickering and stuff? Because there's only 2 sprites that you can draw at a time, but you can reuse them as you're going down the screen.
Yeah, and a perfect test for that is an asteroid skull.
Right. And so I did a very quick mock-up just as a test. I wasn't meaning to do anything with it. It was just, I want to test it and then go back to working on the Berserk. Well, I just couldn't get it out of my head. I ended up finishing the Asteroids remake instead. And so it got released before Stay Frosty 2 did because of the timing of everything. I believe we did, I think we did that in PRGE out in Portland.
Okay.
I believe that's where we released it, which was my first time going to that one.
Now that game particularly, I would say, I don't know, I don't have the numbers, but just based on the popularity that I've heard on a lot of the Atari 2600 homebrew groups, it sounds to me like Space Rocks is probably one of their higher seller homebrews. I don't know, but a lot of people have it.
Yeah. I think it is one of the more popular ones as far as my sales. I'd have to go look. Al sends the sales numbers once a year, and it's been about a year since I saw them.
Okay, so you're due.
So it's coming up. Basically in January I'll get the update for this year's sales.
Okay.
It's definitely one of the more popular ones, and it was just, and that one also has the Easter eggs in it. Just like the No Man's Land in Medieval Mayhem Easter egg, there's a No Man's Land Easter egg in Space Rocks where it will start every round with 12 asteroids. Instead of 4. Yeah, instead of 4.
Oh, man.
So it gets very challenging.
And how do we unlock this Easter egg?
I believe hold down fire button on the right joystick, and then hold down fire button on the left joystick.
Okay.
Okay.
And that'll bring up the credit screen. I think that's how that worked. And you on the credit screen, you do joystick up or down to it'll change the screen from blue to red, and that lets you know
Okay.
that you triggered the No Man's Land.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
and
cool.
if
Can't wait to try these out.
yeah, yeah, and if you let the credits wrap around to the beginning again, the UFO gets replaced with one of the ghosts from Pac-Man.
I
That
didn't
was
know
just-
that either. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to.
See, that's why you guys need to tune in to Retro Bliss Rewind. You get to learn
That's
all these fun, cool stuff.
Yeah, that was like a little off the cuff comment somebody made, and it ended up in the game.
Nice.
It'd be even cooler, though, if the ghost made the ghost sound when it came
Yeah.
on and not the.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. I don't think I had space left for the sound effects that would have been needed. Yeah, by the time you get to the Easter eggs, they're oh, okay, Stay Frost 2 is Space Rock Special.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Brian, that's Brian Mathern.
Yeah,
He says that Stay Frosty 2, Medieval Mayhem, and Space Rocks are listed under the bestsellers.
yeah.
And rightly so. And if you've got some of his books, he does list them. So I may have read about some of these because I do have the 5 main volumes of Brian's books, but then promptly forgot.
Yeah. I don't know how that goes. I did the foreword for, I believe, his second one.
Oh yeah, you did. That's right.
Yeah.
You guys are buddies. Actually, that's how I've been wanting to do a podcast with you for a while, even though I don't show up at the beginning. But anyway, I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I was struggling online. How do I get in contact with this guy? And Brian Mathern was on our podcast, obviously a week or two ago, and I mentioned that to him. Oh, I know Darrell.
Yeah.
And so that's how we were able to have it. So thank you, Brian, for that.
Phil has always wanted to do 5/6 of a podcast with you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
And yes,
volume
volume 2.
Yeah.
So I know I stream live stream most of the time. This week I'm taking the week off, but most weeks I do live streams around lunchtime every day. And so there are certain games that I actually play multiple times, not back to back, but like it might be a 4 or 5 month stretch between times that I live stream it. But Space Rocks, Draconian, those are definitely 2 of the ones I've streamed multiple times on my live stream. It's just because we love the Atari 2600 on this channel. We like other consoles as well, but that's my first love is the 2600. So those are great games. But you have, if I can ask a question, because I've had multiple people ask me to ask you this question.
Okay.
Will you ever finish Frantic? All right, yeah, Frantic.
Yeah. I hope to. Yeah, life happens. One of the big things is my parents are getting up there in age, and medical issues have kind of taken me away.
I
from
understand
working
that.
on the Atari stuff. Yeah, things seem to be going much better now, and I've actually been getting my development system back up and running. Since the last time I was coding for Atari stuff, I bought a new Mac Studio. Originally, I was using one of the 2013 Mac Pros, and I found out a lot of things broke when I migrated to the Mac Studio. Like the compiler wouldn't run and stuff. And so the past couple of weeks, I've actually been getting all of that up and running so I can work on Atari projects again.
That would be
And-
great.
You wouldn't
'cause
have this problem if you stuck to programming Atari games on the Commodore PET.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's practical.
Right. Yeah.
So So I know we have some other games. We talked about Stay Frosty. We talked about Stay Frosty 2, but we haven't really talked about how Stay Frosty 2 came about, have we? Did I miss that?
No.
It started as a development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we were moving on. I know we were moving on to Stay Frosty 2 because we had just finished talking about Space Rocks.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and actually, I believe we skipped Stay Frosty.
yeah. So
Now that I think about
Well,
it,
and I was wondering about that because I'm like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure Darrell also did the original.
yeah. I just realized that we skipped over that because I did Stay Frosty the year after Medieval Mayhem, and that was back then. Atari Age was doing a Christmas cartridge every year, and I believe like the first one was just a little static screen, a pinup, I believe it was, and then they started doing games. And when I was invited, they decided to do a 64K cartridge that had a number of mini games in it.
Okay.
And so I got invited to it, and they were already working on it before I was invited. So I was a late joiner to it, and I had no idea what Christmas game I would even consider doing. So I hit up my oldest nephew and saw, hey, do you have any ideas? And he's like, yeah, you're Rudolph and the other reindeers are taunting you, or you're Frosty the Snowman or something. And so I had that in my mind. And then I was looking through the private discussion area for the holiday cartridge and came across some mock-ups that Nathan Strum had done. That was a snowman game. And I was like, that works out perfect. And so that's how Stay Frosty 2 came about. I mean, Stay Frosty, because I had talked to my nephew and then I saw the mock-ups and it just clicked. And it ended up being a 12K game. So not so many. I think the other, I think the other games were either 2 or 4K each, whereas mine ended up being 12K. So I used up 3 banks out of the cartridge. And I think we had 32 different levels, and the levels get repeated and stuff. And there was a lot of neat stuff in the game that we really didn't have time to follow through on. Like there's a little bit of puzzle elements where you had to shrink yourself to be able to get all of the ice blocks to clear a level. And if you didn't clear them all, it didn't matter. It was just bonus points. But it was, kind of a little puzzle aspect of it that was not fully fleshed out. And so we ended up, I think it was 7 years later was when Stay Frosty 2 came out. And it, we decided to do a full-blown sequel to it, and utilizing the ARM processor and all that, which let us do a lot of things that we couldn't do with the original. Like in the original Stay Frosty, you can always drop down on the left side or the right side of the screen because the platforms don't go all the way across.
Yeah.
And that was one of the design trade-offs of doing a multicolor snowman, because when you do multicolored, that takes additional time on every scan line.
Mm-hmm.
And so the trade-off that we had was we just don't draw the left and right sides of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're both great platformers for the 2600. I love the concept of when it hits the fire that it melts. It's just so smooth. Even the tail of the snow is melting behind Stay Frosty.
The melt trail.
Yeah, I love the melt trail, as you call it,
trail.
in the game. It's just so cool, and just trying to get, and then not, hey, if you're not fully there, when you go to the next screen, you're still kind of in trouble unless you can get, I just love that concept. It's so awesome.
Yeah. And so with the sequel, we're able to do stuff where a lot of the levels are more puzzle oriented, where you have to figure things out. And it does the full width of the screen, and power ups and stuff like the double jump if you get the broom, the ability to throw snowballs if
Yep.
you get the carrot nose and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how Stay Frosty 2 came about, because we wanted to do a sequel to the original.
Yeah.
And we do have in mind to do a Stay Frosty 3. Yeah, it's one of those things that things happened, had to stop it for that year. I think because I believe it was 7 years between the first two, and we were looking to do the third one 7 years after, which would have put it, I believe, in 21, maybe 22. I'm off a little bit on the dates, but that was our goal, was to have it. And it, hopefully someday we can get it. Some of the new cartridges we have more space in it, like Stay Frosty 2's 32K, and I think we're now doing 64K stuff with the Harmony, with the ARM processor and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's
so Stay Frosty 3, 64K.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
I think you have to double it for Stay Frosty 4. I think we need to get a 128K cartridge.
Yeah. If I remember right, we're actually could go all the way up to 512.
Okay, but baby steps. You double it every year. You double it not every year, every game.
Yeah. But we have updated drivers that support larger ROM space, and it goes up to 512. And I don't know if anybody's ever done anything with that yet. I think 64 is the most that have been done with the ARM so far. I should
go
say
ahead, Mike. I know what he's
Harmony.
going to say. I know what Mike's going to say.
I think Jean Champeau's gone 128.
Yeah, Turbo Arcade is 128.
Oh, okay.
That's
Turbo
the only
Arcade,
one that I
right.
know of right now.
Okay.
And Operation Shutdown can't wait for the 256K Stay Frosty 5.
And I also apologize. Evox does not seem to like me tonight, because it keeps freezing up and saying it's lost connection, and then I come back. So
are you using Chrome?
Yeah, I apologize. I keep cutting in and out here. So
I keep bringing you back when you pop back up. Sorry. Which I think, if I'm correct, in because we've, you weren't. I don't think you were done talking about. No, we've talked about Stay Frosty 2, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, my favorite of your games is next.
Okay, that would be the Draconian.
Yeah. So I've streamed this one. I did a full review on it. I did an intro with a garbled voice and everything.
Yeah, I loved that intro. I did see that.
Thanks.
Alert!
Yeah.
It's, that was part of what happened was.
But it's true to the arcade. It's not a knock on the audio.
Yeah, I mean we're actually using arcade samples to for that. The limitation is it's 4-bit digital audio, not 8-bit, 4-bit, and we ended up using rather small samples. I wish they were bigger. They sound better if they're bigger. But when we did them, they were just placeholders, and we ran out of room to be able to do bigger samples.
That's fair.
Yeah,
it doesn't take away from the fun of the game, though.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, when I was a kid, when I used to play at the arcade, my friends and I always joke because it sounds like he's saying "whack off."
Oh yeah, it's gonna blast off. Yeah. It is pretty rough sounding, and originally when we started working on it, I ran across another mock-up by Nathan Strum, where he had showed ways of doing this game, Bosconian on the 2600. And so I saw that, and I'd seen Ed, I think it's Ed Fries. He's the one that did Halo for the 2600.
Yes.
Yeah. I always forget if it's Fries or Fries. But he was working on a version of Rally X.
Okay.
And he came up with the radar display for that, which I used the same technique for Draconian. And so I was able to take that because part of Nathan's mock-ups were putting indicators along the edge of the screen to show where the next station was. And so
yeah.
And so we didn't have to do that because Ed had figured out how to do a radar by that point.
You need a radar in that game for sure.
Oh yeah. And originally it was being written as a DPC plus game, and that one it didn't support the digital audio at the time. We did try making a modified version of it that would do digital audio, but we ended up not using that. We got sidetracked with the bus stuffing. I don't know if you've seen any of that, how the bus stuffing works. But bus stuffing was an advanced technique that was developed by people from Commodore. They had made, I believe it was called The Graduate. It was a keyboard add-on for the Atari.
Okay.
And it will override the data bus, and those the TIA updates gets down to 3 cycles by using bus stuffing. So you can do a lot more with it. Let's see if I can. I'd sent earlier, but it was on the other computer. But we have a tile-based kernel that does that I was doing an RPG demo game using that. And so we were doing some really cool stuff with the bus stuffing, but it ended up failing on some of the Atari Juniors and the PAL 7800s and a few others. So it wasn't reliable across all of the consoles that it needed to be. So we abandoned it, but we took what we learned from writing the bus stuffing driver and applied it to DPC Plus, which is where we came up with the CDF driver, the original version. And part of that, we also added the ability to do digital audio samples, which DPC Plus didn't originally have. And so we're able to do that. Part of the improvements was we made the driver smaller, which made more ROM available for the game itself, and some other stuff like that. And so ended up rebooting Draconian multiple times as I figured out ways of doing stuff. But with the final revision, I got it so I could update, or I could reposition an object on every single scan line. And so that's lets you reuse everything, the balls, the missiles, the players. And so I use all 5 of the Atari objects to draw everything on the screen. The ball object is used to draw station cores. It can be used to draw missiles launched by ships and stuff. And it also draws the star field in the background. And so with the multicolored parallax effect and all that going on.
Yeah, and that's actually the fact that you mentioned, the ball is this.
Right.
That's something maybe a lot of people don't know about. Like the Atari 2600 was created basically to do Pong. So you've got 2 sprites, which would be your paddles, and a ball or missile object. Right. And so everything that you create in this or this or any of your other games or any of the other homebrew games that are out there, like you play Turbo Arcade or Elevator Agent from Champ Games,
right?
It's using that primitive building format,
right? And we've and I work with John a lot and stuff. Like I got him up to speed with the DPC Plus back for what was it? Super Cobra, I believe it was, that he did first. Yeah, so I wrote him a framework for that, and now he's returning the favor now. I'm actually working with him to get Draconian republished.
Yes, I was hoping for that. Yes. I was hoping for that.
And so we're going to republish it next year, And part of what we're doing is we're going to expand it to a 64K game. So it'll be Draconian Deluxe.
Yes.
Yes. And
Right.
so some of the stuff that we're wanting to put in there is better audio samples.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the charm of it too. If it sounds too good, it's not Bosconian.
Well, there's still going to be the arcade samples. So it'll still be,
good.
Yeah, they'll just be a little bit more higher quality than what we get now. Have support for like the save key, so you can save high scores and stuff.
Yes.
And some other stuff that we haven't quite figured out what we want to do yet.
A challenge mode.
Right.
That's like the quintessential Champ Games thing is a challenge mode.
I've got 4 levels, so I guess it would be 1 above that or something. I'm not exactly sure what the challenge mode would be.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. What do you do for a challenge mode? But food for thought. Challenge mode. I always love the challenge modes.
Yeah.
I think you need to add your Easter egg that you do with all the other ones.
Yeah, that's true. I will definitely need to add Easter eggs to Draconian, because Draconian didn't end up having any Easter eggs because there wasn't room to put them in.
Easter egg. Double the mines and little asteroids that you have to dodge.
Right. Yeah.
And there goes Brian again.
Yeah, EV Mux, we're going to have to revisit this. But we don't want this to happen every week. That can't be happening every week.
No.
So,
but we're so I'm actually working with John now. He's helping me get up to speed with the changes to work with the 64K and stuff.
Nice.
I don't know how you improve on something that is so great. I mean, it's just what we have now. To me, it's amazing that you even have voices at all without an Atari box. You know, I don't know of any, and Mike can maybe correct me on this. I don't know of any other 2600 game that has voice without it.
Back in the day, there were 2 games that had digital voice in it. What was it? Quadrun.
Okay.
And it would actually, when you start around, it would say Quadrun.
Okay.
And then there was another game that would say Open Sesame. I don't remember what the game itself was. So they actually figured out how to do this back in the day, but the limitations that they had back then was basically the gameplay would freeze when the voice sample would be played back, because it couldn't do voice sample at the same time as doing the gameplay.
Operation Shutdown.
Because again, you can only have so many lines to write.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Berserk Advanced.
Yeah, but that's modern. He was talking about like original release.
Right.
But still,
it's an achievement for sure.
It is definitely an achievement.
You've made my day. Draconian Deluxe.
Yeah.
I'm looking, and as Operation Shutdown says, I got to start thinking about my intro for when that comes out now.
Definitely be looking forward to that. Yeah. So basically, what my plans are is I want to get Draconian Deluxe. That's what I'm working on now, and then once that's done, I'm going to get back to work on Frantic.
Okay.
And working on the Draconian Deluxe will actually help with Frantic, because some of the stuff we want to do in Frantic is things like the save key for high score saving and stuff.
So I have a question about that though. Since Atari owns the IP for Berserk now,
yes,
is that going to be something that you're going to have in the Atari Age store?
Yes,
and work with Atari on that.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I've talked with Al about it, and they they showed a demo of it again at PRGE this past year, and so it's definitely in the plans to do that through Atari Age, since they have the property. Yeah.
So now, obviously, people and you want to see a finished product with Frantic, and that's going to be awesome when that does come out. But I'm going to ask, do you have any other particular projects that you have at least put on a drawing board as to you might want to work on?
I know one.
Oh yeah, 256.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Stay Frosty 3 is definitely, would be something I want to do. I would love to get back to Timmy. I don't know if you've seen that one. Way back, I was approached by ThinkGeek.
Okay.
They used to do.
They don't even really exist anymore, do they?
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
But they would do April Fool's products that would end up being real. Like
I
they
remember
did,
that. Yep.
yeah, like they had the Tauntaun sleeping bag and stuff like that, where it was just a spoof, and they ended up turning into a real product. Well, they wanted to do an Atari game, and so they had reached out to me, and we were working on the only thing they told us to go on was they wanted it to star Timmy, which was their monkey mascot.
Okay.
And so we had a group together that were working on it, and it was going to be. We ended up looking at Jumpman, and we're going to do a game based on Jumpman or inspired by Jumpman, where instead of going around getting the bombs that the Jumpman would go get, you were getting all of the ThinkGeek products and getting them out for shipment.
Okay.
And there's I have a test build that's got like 4 levels, but all you can do is you can run around, and it's got just blocks as placeholders for what the products would end up being. But the first 3 levels, you can definitely tell that they were from Jumpman. And then the 4th level, we were going to add stuff like conveyor belts that would move in one direction, and you could throw bananas at a switch to change the direction.
Okay.
And so that's another one that I would love to get back to. And the other thing I know a lot of people are waiting on is Spice C. A lot of people use Atari Basic to write games.
Yep.
Spice C would be the same concept, but instead of using Basic for your coding, you would use C. And it would use the ARM processor and use the CDFJ stuff. And I would have pre-written kernels, like the one used for Draconian. So you could do a space shooter using the same kernel that I use, and all you have to do is put in your data for your sprites and stuff.
Wow.
And that's another thing that is currently broke on my new Mac. And I don't know why it broke yet. I have to figure it out. One of the things I did notice is when you go into the terminal, it's a different terminal than it used to be.
Okay.
I don't know how familiar you are with any of the terminals. It used to be what was called a bash terminal, and then now it's a Z shell. And I don't really know what's different about them, but something's different, and it broke my spicy development stuff.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So that's another one of my things that I got to figure out. Why did it break? How do I fix it? Yeah.
Such a brilliant name, though.
Yeah.
Spicy.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So I don't know if you saw the comment when you were talking about the thing, but Operation Shutdown says maybe you can convert this Jumpman ThinkGeek game to be an Atari Age game where you help Albert actually get games out for shipment.
Yeah, that could work.
I do have an update on that for those of you who may be tuning in and don't know what's going on with your shipment. I contacted Albert, and he said he's relocating. And so he said once he gets relocated and gets set up at his new location, then he's going to start cranking out the games again. He's just there's been a lull in shipment, shipments sent out. So, but that's something that he says he's working on. He's trying his best. He's a one-man show still, even though Atari owns Atari Age now. They've
but these are his sales that he's still trying to get out. They're not Atari's sales. If you buy now, it's an Atari sale. So he has to prioritize
those
now.
Shipments still aren't going out either, though.
Well,
I'm still waiting on one of my last. I've got a last chance order that hasn't shown up yet. Either.
Oh my goodness!
That's insane to me.
You'd be high priority.
I basically cashed out a lot of royalties and got everything that I didn't already have that was going away. So it's going to be a big order, probably one of the bigger ones.
I guess it
Yeah,
would be.
mine was
Yeah.
mine was a pretty big order too.
Yeah.
Probably not as big as that because I didn't have any
Yeah.
royalties to cash out.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's
So-
basically moving across country, so he's got a
Oh,
big move.
There you
going.
go. We'll
Yeah.
call it Space Albert.
Ah, okay.
So a couple quick questions because I
Okay.
was looking on, and you may or may not either know the answers or be able to answer on a couple of these, but like looking at your games on Atari Age, because obviously I know that's where we can get the ones other than Draconian right now.
Mhm.
That are they no longer selling the boxes with them?
I don't know.
Okay, because I just when I look, and unless I'm missing something, I don't see an
okay.
option to. Yeah, I don't see an option to pick a box. I was just surprised
So
to see that.
when they run out of stock, he probably reorders them. Like, so they might just be out of stock right now.
Yeah, it may just be a temporary ordering option right now because he doesn't.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I do know when the Medieval Mayhem box came out, I was shocked at that because I didn't know it was coming.
Oh,
And-
okay.
Yeah, that was a surprise because back when Medieval Mayhem was released, he didn't do boxes because it was super expensive and
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
yes, I made Draconia. Yeah,
And being the one that's not available on Atari Age, I will say that the ROM for this game is in the Atari Age forums.
yes,
And both Phil and I, when we stream them, we link the link to that ROM there. That's not to say that if you if you can find this as a physical copy, still pick it up. Like for me, my favorite homebrews, even if I have the ROM, I want the physical copy because they're just some of my favorites.
I have.
Yeah, and I love the manual that he came up with for that. Yeah, it looks like the old car maintenance manuals.
Oh yes, yeah. The old what are those called?
Hayes, I think. H-A.
Yes, the Hayes manuals.
Yeah.
I got one from
I
my
bought a
old
number
Jeep.
of those in my day back when I was a young man and couldn't
Yeah.
afford to get someone else to do my car. I had to do my own.
Yeah,
That was brilliant.
I had the other ones. I think what were they? The Shiltons. Where it was the other brand.
Oh
But-
yes,
but-
yeah. I always got the
very-
Hayes ones.
Yeah, but very similar. Back when you had to work on your own cars.
I have a question regarding another game I have not heard you guys talk about, and this may not. I may be totally off base with this, but for some reason when I was doing research, I found a ROM, and it's a prototype. It's not done of a game called Hunchy 2. Is that you?
Too? No, that's not mine.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know why it came, and when I was searching for ROMs, it came across. Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah,
So that is not one of your
I
deals.
thought Hunchy was actually released.
It may. Well, this is a Hunchy 2
Yeah,
thing, so I don't know. I had never heard of it before, so
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That one's by Chris Walton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to look into
Another great 2600 programmer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's out there. Okay. All
But
right,
the
it's a
other question-
platformer. It's not one of your games, but it's a platformer. Sorry about that, Darrell. I just
Yeah, no
wasted
problem.
2 minutes of our podcast.
So the other one, which I'm sure you couldn't tell us anyways, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it before Evie Mux decides to knock me out again. That so with the popularity of your games on Atari Age, because again, like it's been mentioned, it's under the bestsellers and stuff. Has Atari approached you yet, just like they did with these latest set of games, to get them re-released under the Atari brand?
No, they haven't. I did reach
That's
out
a shame.
to them. Yeah, I reached out to them a while back about Medieval Mayhem, but never. Yeah, it never.
Medieval
went
Mayhem,
anywhere.
like that's the one that I was instantly thinking. Like they own Warlords. You
Right.
could change the name to Warlords Deluxe or something like that and
Right.
release it as an official Atari game.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
it
even
was,
Astro.
It
I
would
mean,
do well.
they could easily do Space Rocks too. That's why. Because like I said, I know with like the 7800, they did a big push with a bunch of homebrew games being now official like Atari games. I just didn't know if maybe you were contacted yet or not, because I think that would be really cool to see. So
Yeah, I did approach them. They'd sent me something to sign, and I sent it back, and that's where it ended. So
Okay.
just don't really know.
So one day you'll just get the email that it's for sale on the Atari site.
Yeah. Okay. I found we talked about RPG earlier with the bus stuffing.
Yep.
So that's
Oh, there you go.
Oh wow!
yeah. So that's from 2600.
Holy
Whoa.
crap!
Yeah.
That looks like a NES game or something.
Yeah, and so we were able to do that using bus stuffing, and so that's why I'm so disappointed that it didn't pan out. Yeah, because we were able to do some really cool stuff with that.
Future ideas.
Yeah, yeah. They've been trying different things to get it to work, and I haven't kept up with it. But
Cool.
yeah.
Well, I feel like we've been on for an hour, and that's usually how long we go. And but I feel like we need to go another 7.5 minutes because I was late to the party because I'm not exactly sure what I missed for sure. But I know one thing. I really appreciate you being on the podcast tonight. It's been very informative, very interesting. I love your games. I know I'm speaking for the homebrew community and the 2600 community as a whole when I say that we would love to see some more Spiceware games come out, because we know it's almost like the old Activision or whatever. When you're getting a Spiceware game, you're getting a quality product, or even Champ Games. You guys are in that same.
Like if Champ Games is Activision, Spiceware is Imagic.
Exactly. Right. Both great. And so we would love to see more stuff come out, and I'd like to extend the invitation that if some more Spiceware news comes out, please let us know, and we will have you back on the show.
Sounds good.
It's been a great podcast. So
and I cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to Draconian Deluxe.
Oh, I
know, I'm very excited for that.
Yes, that's I mean, I don't know how you improve on perfection. It's just because I love Draconian in itself. So yeah, that's gonna be amazing time. So anyway, I appreciate you guys all being here tonight, and I'm gonna let Mike take us out since he's the one that brought us in.
All right.
All right, sounds good.
But
thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
We'll see you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.